Now that we've looked at the inward witness of the Holy Spirit, let's go ahead and take a look at the inward voice of the Holy Spirit. This is more authoritative. It's very strong. It might even be like words that you hear that even might make you go, whoa, who just said that? Because it's very strong. It just grabs your attention and it's very authoritative. Whereas peace, you just kind of have a sense, I don't know. This is like, whoop, very absolute. It's very directive. We see in Acts chapter 16 and verse 6, as the Apostle Paul is wanting to take the gospel into Asia, we see this inward voice, this very authoritative direction from the Holy Spirit. Now, when they had gone through Phrygia in the region of Galatia, they were forbidden by the Holy Spirit to preach the word in Asia. After they had come to Mysia, they tried to go Bithynia, but the Spirit did not permit them. So passing by Mysia, they came down to Troas. Now, when they got there, Paul was wondering, why? Why can't I go here and here? Because the Holy Spirit wanted to direct them to another location. And that night, Paul saw a vision while he slept of a man in Macedonia saying, hey, come over here and help us. And as you follow the gospel, the book of Acts, what you'll ultimately see is the church of Philippi is birthed as he follows that vision, and a lot of great things take place. The gospel would ultimately get into Asia, but God had a different plan and a sequence for Paul to take the gospel as a next step. But the Lord used this authoritative inward voice. It was very strong, forbade, and did not permit us, which is a much stronger leading than just a sense of peace. I want to tell you a story about how the Holy Spirit really spoke to me in a very directive way with the inward voice that was really instrumental, a pivotal point, a milestone in my walk as a Christ follower. I was 22 years old and I was out coordinating a teen camp outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I was driving back. And as I was driving back in my car, I was just dialoguing with God. I had worship music and I was just fellowshipping with God. And I heard this very strong statement, and it was this: God said, I've called you to be a leader to leaders. And it was so strong and so sudden and kind of like so out of nowhere. I literally just kind of like turned to see was somebody in my back seat that just said this to me. And then immediately after that, the follow-up statement was this: Satan is a thief. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy. He wants to take your life. Stop the car right now. And I was like very startled. So I'm not going to just slam on my brakes, not knowing if somebody's behind me. So I look up in my rearview mirror. I'm out in the country. I can't see a car for miles behind me. And so I come to a pretty much an immediate stop right there. And I'm just kind of pausing for a second, still watching my rearview mirror, wondering what's going on. And then just a moment after that, I see this car come flying across the road right in front of me. What had happened was, out in this countryside, there was a bunch of tall grass that had grown up, bushes that had grown up. It had been kind of neglected there, and there was a stop sign that I could not see that was covered by all the foliage. Well, there was a car that also had a stop sign. It was a four-way intersection that I didn't even know existed. There was a car that ran a stop sign, was going 60 plus miles an hour. It would have been right on top of me had I kept going. It would have T-boned me, and chances are I could have died in that moment. It was the Holy Spirit's inward voice, stop the car right now, that saved my life. Now, what if I had just said, that's great, let me pray about that? Well, I would have been able to talk directly to the Lord, probably face to face. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of Christians who actually probably get to heaven sooner than they were supposed to because they ran through the peace of God. They ignored the inward voice, or they ignored the authoritative voice of an inward witness. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't go there. And they just ignored it. They did it anyway. And you know what? They meant well, but unfortunately, it was an opportunity for the enemy to take them out simply because they didn't listen to the leading of the Holy Spirit. And that answers a lot of questions that many people have. Well, they were a good person. Why did they go to heaven so soon? And sometimes it's as simple as we just ignored the inward voice of what God was trying to protect us from, and we just kept going. And unfortunately, we suffered the consequences for it. Now, I want to go ahead and talk in our next lesson. How do you know if that's the Holy Spirit talking? How do you know if that's the enemy talking? How do you know if that's just the pizza from last night talking? That's what we're going to look at in our next video.